afternoon. I want to look quickly to explain. I understand that Larry Drucker last night gave a long, about an hour explanation of the duties of the fraternity president. So we have a PowerPoint. It'll be about 45 minutes. The role of the foundation and what we exist for. And I know last night some of the we've got a new member arrived today, but the board members stood. But if you look to your left, and it's a fraternity brother, collegiate brother, look to your right and find one. The sole role of our foundation is to invest in you. Okay? So we raise money to fund programs like this. We raise money to fund the regional leadership conferences. We are working now on a fund, the leadership of Cardinal World, to emphasize the spiritual nature of the fraternity. So our sole purpose is to strengthen our fraternity, our collegiate brothers, and answer the call, as Rob Reed shares, that the world needs more servant leaders, and we need more leaders like you. And you're very impressive every year when I'm here. It's a great joy to see the caliber of brothers that we have and who we're investing in. We're investing in you. So I hope, as collegiate brothers, and too soon for many of you as alumni, that you'll begin to invest in the fraternity, because the foundation, because our sole role was investing in you. Now, we have an awards program with the foundation, and for years we've had the Man of Achievement Award. And in a couple of weeks, we will, a couple of weeks ago, right? Yeah. We'll be presenting the Man of Achievement Award to Brother Vince Dooley from the University of Georgia, who is a distinguished collegiate football coach and great servant leader. And then last year, we began an Outstanding Young Alumnus Award. So our recipient in a few minutes will be the second ever recipient of that award. And I'll share with you as well, and Brother Lampy will introduce our recipient in a minute, that we have instituted under Brother Lampy's leadership in the Foundation Award, a third award, and that's the John F. Kennedy Award for Mid-Career Achievement. So another request, other than giving to the foundation now and in the future, is when you think of outstanding alumni from your chapter who fall into one of those categories, right? Young, mid-career. We kind of did the mid-career, the John F. Kennedy, for noble reasons, but also, it's tough to tell some of their mid-career. And then the Man of Achievement. So we really need your help as well when you think of your chapter and other chapters, and you learn of outstanding alumni. It's amazing who's out there we don't even know about. And so we'd ask you to share those with Rob and his team, or Brother Lampy, so we can add that to our list of nominations. And every year we seek and get a large number of nominations. So to introduce this year's recipient is our awards chairman, Brother Kevin Lampy.
Good afternoon to everybody here, and welcome to our Man of Achievement luncheon today. And it's my distinct privilege and honor to introduce to you our honoree today. He is a graduate of the Alpha chapter of Phi Kappa Theta. He is also a graduate of Arizona State University. He's co-founder of Coastal Laboratories, which is a multidisciplinary studio based out of New York, San Francisco, and Seattle, where he currently is working with, among his clients, Google, Adobe, and Cal Poly. But most importantly, he has been working in an area that actually I've had experience as well. He's currently working in East Congo with a community of 150,000 people in order to design a youth center. He has clearly demonstrated already at a young age that he is living what it is to be a servant leader of our fraternity. So please join me in welcoming our honoree this afternoon, Taylor Loutsis.
It's wonderful. It feels like a full circle, actually, because I started out in Seattle, which you'll see in a moment, and then graduated here. So coming back to Arizona this week is, as you'll see, it's a great opportunity to complete the circle. So I was asked to kind of fulfill or connect the dots to how I kind of got to where I'm at now. And so, as you'll see shortly, that's kind of the structure of this presentation. So I was born and raised in Seattle, just outside of it. And then I went ahead and attended at Washington State University, where I joined Alpha Delta chapter at Phi Kappa Theta. And I was here for 2.5 years. And I ended up switching my major 6 times in 2.5 semesters. So I was, gave my parents a little bit of a headache. Unsure if they were aware of that I switched that often, but I did. And in a lecture in my junior year, the second semester, there was a creative director who came into the class lecturing his job, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. So I ran up after the lecture, I was like, I took him out to lunch. I was like, I want to discuss your career. And I asked him, if time and money are not an issue, how do I get from A to B? I'm A, you're B. And he said, you need to leave the school. So that night I actually withdrew, and little bit present at that moment either. And I was like, Mom, Dad, I'm back home for the weekend. No, I withdrew. And so, sure enough, 6 weeks later, 6 or 7 weeks later, I was Arizona bound. And I came to here for a year to get in-state tuition. And after I got that, I enrolled at Arizona State with the Herberger Institute for Design. Little did I know after coming to the program that actually after freshman year, they accept only 40 of 400 people. So my chances of getting into the program were quite slim at that point. So what I did after my freshman year of that program was I actually moved to New York for the summer. And I got accepted into artist residency. And I actually booked a one-way ticket because if I didn't get into the program, I would just stay in New York. I was like, well, heck, why not? And so I found out while in New York, I got into the program. But while I concluded in New York, I actually had an exhibit in Brooklyn, New York. And I lived in an artist residency with 150 people, artists, designers, architects, models, poets, all the above, the quintessential New York thing. And what I left, though, this chapter that impacted me for the rest of my life, and I'll credit this phase, was it taught me to live your passion. You had people there who were painting around the clock. They had people who were literally choosing their passion over the necessities of life. The quintessential starving artist was there. I was guilty of that at that time. But like, at any rate, it taught me that you cannot leave what you're passionate about. It's not a 9-to-5 type of job. And so I left there to kind of move that mentality forward into my career and where I'm at now. But so I moved back to Arizona, got into the program. And so I spent my sophomore year figuring out what I wanted to do with my career. And so I wanted to go overseas. So then I went and traveled to Southeast Asia for 3 months over the summer, and then I studied abroad in Singapore. Was there for 9 months, but 6 of that I actually worked at a studio called Hire. And that's where I studied ADM, the Art, Design, and Media Institute of Singapore. And I interned though at Hire Studio, which I branded some crunchy countryside, which is like a farm in the outskirts of Singapore. But I also was part of Youth Factory, which was in charge of designing the whole Biennale of Singapore. So they had 6 galleries, these are a few of them, where I was in charge of managing the spaces and curating it. And then I also designed with the team there the Kit Cafe, and also some window displays. And then that was my phase in Singapore. And then I came back to Arizona going into my junior year without any money. I had $50, I think. But I really wanted to go to Germany that following summer. So what did I do? I moved into the school. So I actually went homeless for 6 months, slept on my desk, and I saved 6 months of rent, and I actually sold 36 boxes of goods and put them in Goodwill, or gave them to Goodwill. So this is what you see there is what all my possessions I had at that point. And so I slept and just worked 100 hours a week on my projects at school, and saved the money, went to Germany, got into a design studio in West Germany, sorry. And there's my ride that they gave me, the company car. And so the project though of this experience that was super powerful was to actually connect all the dots that I've been trying to connect at that point for 6 years of my undergrad at that point. And it was a project that this was a refinery, and I was in charge with 2 other designers doing all of the wayfinding and graphics that actually married the property and how you get from A to B to C to D. So we made these like tactile interactive models that people can interact with and play with. And so this led me to realize that within my graphic design major, I wanted to I wanted to become an experience designer, which marries architecture, interior design, and graphic design. And so that's kind of like what I do, or the areas I work within right now. And this presentation will probably help my family knowing what the hell I do right now, actually. So, it's not all of you, so the other thing that shifted in my mentality was that the projects I'm wanting to get involved in, clicking back, are much more complex. One person does not take to execute these projects. So my mentality also shifted moving forward, was that these teams need to be much more complex and dynamic, and the mentality was like, it's not about me or I, it's about us and we. And so then I came back to needing to realize I needed a team skill, or built around various skills and backgrounds to tackle those types of projects. And so then I came back to round 2 of living in school my senior year, and so I ended up living back in the school for 9 months knowing it could be done. So I came back into my senior year, Arizona, and my senior thesis, which led me to where I am right now, is called Erasing Boundaries. And so what it was we built a team, my now co-partners on our studio, he's in New York at the moment. We built this project, or this team, around anthropology specialists, architecture, civil engineering, industrial design, and visual communication. And then here's a pattern that just kind of symbolically brings us together. That was designed around the textiles, based around the textiles of East Congo. And so there's a poster that we designed for it, and so we got to work on how to actually redesign refugee camp housing. And our subject was a refugee camp that had been around for 17 years. These people no longer were there for temporary purposes, but they actually now had 2 generations living within this camp. But they were still living in tents. So we wanted to kind of design a new structure that could be long-term. And so this is editorial showing that I designed for the team. That was my role in the team, is kind of graphically and visually bringing our project together. So these are some editorial spreads of it. And then this is what we actually wound up designing. I don't want to talk all day about this, but this was just the renderings of it. So that ended, and I moved to San Francisco last year, 14 months ago, where I now work my paying job at Media Objectives, where I'm an experience designer. And so this was like an installation I designed with them for VMware. And then here's PayPal, Google down in Mountain View. So I designed like a lighting installation on the top with them on both of those. And then here's a PayPal in Baltimore. So again, this is bringing back to like that whole experience of like blending architecture, interior, and graphics. And then Coastal Laboratories, though, is kind of like my current side passion project with my 2 co-partners. And so we're called Coastal Laboratories, short for collab, because we like to collaborate. So it kind of merges our full name while also becoming a verb in how we want to work as a team. And we're based out of New York, San Francisco, and Seattle. So the 2 architects on the team are New York and Seattle, and I'm stuck in San Francisco. Well, it's not a bad place to be, but I'm in San Francisco. And so Project Menembwe is the current project that's taking over our lives in the most beautiful way. And we were there it's a merging between Coastal Laboratories and AHNH, which is 501c3, nonprofit. And so we are merging and marrying this project together between 2 organizations, because the founder of AHNH was supposed to be here, but he no longer can make it. He is from this region, and so we went there last summer, and this is kind of a map to show you where it is within Africa. So there's Congo, and it's in West Congo, or East Congo, I apologize, East Congo. And so there's a little aerial view of it while we were kind of arriving in the helicopter, which was our sweet ride. But we studied the history and needs of the people of Menembwe on this first trip. It was nothing, we were arriving not knowing what we were actually getting ourselves into. We just wanted to kind of hear the people talk to us, what they need, what their struggles were, and identify their problems. And And so here are a quick few facts of the people of Inuit. There's 6 tribes, population of 150,000 people. The conflict that they were experiencing was going on for about 6 to 7 decades. And then the peace was kind of brought to these people about 6 to 8 years ago. And the solution? Soccer. So soccer was actually passively and indirectly brought to these people through the UN actually having affiliation of the region. And so we were helicoptered by the UN just due to safety measures, because the region we were working in is safe, but to reach it is actually currently illegal. The US doesn't allow you to travel there. So we had to be brought in by the air. And so we were brought in there so this trip was August 2015. And so then there's us being, after we were landed, and we were actually welcomed by the 32 soccer teams that had been formed among the 150,000 people. They welcomed us as we arrived. And Dr. Kigaba, who is the founder of AH&H, he had never seen in his life those people actually come together before. So it was the first time for the people to actually come together this week while we were there, which was a very powerful experience of that, given that the situation of their history. And so there's been us entering. We attended a wedding to kind of see, also like learn much more in depth the culture of the people, so that we can start designing at some point without having to like study them. We've actually experienced all different layers of their society. Oddly, I also found this out, was they're also Catholic. So due to colonialism, they brought the religion to them. So I attended Catholic Mass, and I was able to follow, being born and raised Catholic, but it was definitely spoken Kiwan and not English. But it was a beautiful experience to see that the structure and system of religion actually carries through multiple layers of culture and differences and boundaries of countries. And these are some kids after Mass that he pretended he was Superman. I was like, oh, there's American culture for you. Playing checkers. This was a clinic that we traveled to kind of see a little bit about the architecture, or learn like what we can actually do technology-wise. And then this was also a little bit after we arrived. We were being introduced. There's Dr. Kigaba actually in the yellow shirt. And then so this is actually the photo is taken on the current soccer field. And it was actually during, they organized their championship game to be when we were there. So we got to also experience this beautiful experience of just everyone coming together. So it was a very, not a very typical situation though to experience that. And then there's another photo of the field. As you can tell, the community is lining the boundary of the field. And then actually 2, 3 months ago, we actually gained the land acquired, started designing. So we got the 15 acres granted to us from the 6 local chiefs, and then the Congolese government. They actually signed off on us getting the land, so now we can begin the process. And so this is what we've pieced together, just a collage for the time being, just to give a visual representation of what we're working on, our goals and intentions behind this. And there's a little of the marketing that we've pieced together for maybe begin presenting this and marketing it to gain the money that we're going to soon launch for the funding and marketing for it. And then the campaigning begins shortly. I'm actually meeting with Dr. Kigaba tomorrow morning. He's based out of Phoenix, so we're going to talk more on this project while I'm here. And I'd like to end with this quote that I've been following for a very long time. And great things are not done by impulse, but a series of small things brought together. Thank you.
Well, I feel like my accomplishments are just insignificant now. That's pretty awesome. So that was fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. And at this point, I would love to open up questions to the audience. So I'm going to run a microphone out to the audience and to answer a few questions. Let's start off. Yes.
In the picture, you showed looked like a desk with
furniture in it. Where'd you sleep? Did you sleep in that?
So the program, the way it was we actually had a desk that was like our office and no one could touch. So I took it upon myself to make it my apartment. So I actually just slept on my wood desk every night. It was not glamorous, I'll put it that way. I also didn't tell my parents that I was doing this for a very long time, for the record.
How did you choose soccer as the thing that would bring people together? Was that something you went out there with as an idea, or you just thought of it when you got there?
No, so actually, initially we were going to be building a clinic, but then we saw clinics were vacant because they have what's called a brain drain, where when doctors come there, they actually go to the West to get more money, or to make more money. And so they didn't have doctors in the facility built for us clinics, so we thought if we build another one, it'll just remain vacant. So then we realized that they have the soccer, the 32 teams I showed, they had all this infrastructure being built socially, like among themselves in teams, but they don't actually have a facility to organize it, like space-wise. And we also found out that teams were walking 30 to 35 miles to play a single game, and the game would end at sunset, and they have to walk and get home at 6 a.m. And so then we also want to have like a little bit of a neat hostel for them, so the traveling team doesn't have to go. There's like a lot of little factors like that we're discovering, like problems, and so we realized, well, you need to like a YMCA like facility. And so then we also were thinking about how we can actually have it almost a school, like teaching crafts too, and generating a little bit of a local economy. So it's become a little bit larger in the past year since we've returned and have been working more and more in depth with them. I don't know if that answered your question, but.
I just have a question. What is one way for other people to get involved in this project?
Ooh. That's a good question. Kind of good. A lot of eyes on me right now. I should have an answer for that, but we're actually meeting tomorrow morning with the director of operations to literally have all the answers for all of that. So because of the land being so fresh, we just received it. It's kind of reshaped our projects. We thought we were getting 2 acres, now we're getting 15. So the scale of the project has just kind of blown up in a good way. So we're kind of returning to the books as far as like roles and responsibilities and what skills we actually need. Like our team is now becoming larger, and so it's kind of like a stay tuned answer. The website is under construction, so that's going to be the biggest way or outlet for people to figure out how to get involved. So I don't have like a solid answer, but I have my contact information that I can leave. But I'm sorry, not to give an answer for either yet.
Taylor, 2 questions.
Yeah.
First being, how can these guys help spread the word?
Stay tuned. I don't want to say stay tuned. I mean, there are so many outlets in this room I know that would help substantially beyond social media, but actually all the chapters coast to coast here. And I'm wondering if there could be just like a follow-up message I can send out in the next week or so. There's just so much that's going to be taking place tomorrow, like fresh off the press. I don't want to give like something that's going to change tomorrow morning. That's how fresh it is.
Thanks. Second question. So the format of this conference is a lot of teams here selected out of 17 UN sustainability goals for 2030. A lot of teams here are developing ideas, product or service, or even, have you heard, non-profit organizations could be established out of this conference, and they're going to make these pitches tomorrow. What kind of advice could you give them? Because it's modeled after Startup Weekend, but they're already running into challenges in terms of how's it sustainable, in terms of business or product or service. But when you think about collaboration, you're doing a lot of it. What kind of advice could you give them in terms of the short amount of time they have here to collaborate and get together and try to make a pitch on Saturday?
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, when we meet the 2 co-partners, we figure out what we kind of know now, but when we first were meeting is what are our strengths at the moment? And then what are the strengths needed, though, to fulfill the project and goal? And then we always fill in the dots. Like, we need someone that is actually a specialty in that area that we don't have. Like, we don't have an engineer, so we brought an engineer. We don't have an anthropologist to make sure we're following the cultural norms of that society, so we brought an anthropology specialist. So again, given your time research, like time limitations, you can't bring in someone at this point. But we always address our current strengths because that's what we're able to work with at this very given moment. And then fulfilling your weaknesses and addressing those. And then in this time frame, I would work on like how can we work around that at the moment. That's just, given your time frame, you can only work on your strengths and how it can be utilized for the solution you're working towards.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Yeah, we got one more question.
I guess, how did you find the project, or did the project find you? Like, how did they Google you?
Yeah, so the refugee camp project, the first one, was actually work with Dr. Kiabo, who's the co-founder he's the founder of the nonprofit. And then when we concluded that in May 2015, he was like, hey, do you want to come to Congo with us? We think we have something for you guys. We're like, yes. And so
I guess on the first project, how did you even get hooked up with?
Associated Press in April 2014 had an article that just said there's the most refugees in the world history, 52 million people displaced. And so I wouldn't say by nature, but I just saw that headline, I was like, that needs to be addressed. And so then I just wanted to start building a team of who else would be interested in this type of project. And so then we kind of just brought in all these people, actually, who were interested. And we kind of hand selected, like, you're the most strongest engineer I know in this area, and I know you would be interested, so come aboard. But initially it was that newspaper article, and then we all were interested in finding a solution for this problem.
On a volunteer basis?
Yeah.
The first
Yeah.
it started as volunteer, and then you were
It's still volunteer, actually. But yeah, I mean, it's still just volunteer. I mean, and it was from the beginning.
Okay.
All right, any final questions? Yes.
How are you receiving funding?
Yeah, that's also kind of, well, we had a budget for our initial idea or what we're doing, but since the scale of the project has literally quadrupled, that's why we're going to the drawing board again tomorrow morning. So we're addressing now, like, how many trips we need in the future to go back to measure land if we need to do that, and the cost of engineers locally, like a local engineer in Rwanda versus, of course, here, to figure all this out. Fortunately, we do have connections to architecture studios in Rwanda who are going to help facilitate the local needs there, and so we don't have to worry about contractors in that regard. But the costs, collaborating with them, and then also the nonprofit AH&H has had projects in Africa, so they have a rough idea of costs. And so that's actually what we're addressing tomorrow. We have a big meeting tomorrow morning. Sorry.
Yep.
What does this award mean to you coming from your own fraternity?
That's a good question. As I said at the beginning, 2 parts. It feels like a complete circle. Having my roots in, like, education, being with a few members in this room, or brothers, not members, sorry, a few brothers in this room, and then now coming back to Arizona and seeing you guys acknowledging this as well is quite remarkable. Not remarkable, just incredible. I never thought that my roots in my first college would make a full circle and support my current endeavors and just mission. So, yeah.
All right, no final questions? Well, huge thanks to Taylor and his family.